Picture the Suez Canal, a man-made river connecting Europe and Asia, slicing through the Egyptian desert. It's a marvel of engineering, a narrow blue ribbon that links the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, and by extension, the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. This is the world's most vital shortcut for global trade, a passage so important that nearly 12% of all goods shipped by sea pass through its waters every year. For over 150 years, ships have streamed through, carrying everything from oil and gas to electronics, cars, and even food. The canal is a lifeline for economies across continents, but in March 2021, the Ever Given, a massive container ship longer than the Eiffel Tower is tall, got stuck, sideways, wedged across the canal. Overnight, the canal became a dead end, and global trade ground to a halt. Ships carrying everything from sneakers to smartphones were stranded, waiting for the way to clear. The world watched in disbelief, as this invisible industry suddenly became headline news, dominating conversations from boardrooms to kitchen tables. The Ever Given was now infamous, the ship that stopped the world, its name etched into history. For 6 days, it was a metal cork in the planet's most important bottle, holding back a tide of commerce worth billions. The incident exposed the fragility of our interconnected world and our dependence on these steel giants, revealing just how easily the flow of goods can be disrupted. Behind the Ever Given, hundreds of ships piled up, each hour costing millions. The ripple effects were felt in ports and markets around the globe. Suddenly, everyone realized how much we rely on this hidden system, how the things we take for granted depend on a delicate chain stretching across oceans. The Ever Given forced us to see the scale and complexity of global shipping, a world usually invisible, but absolutely essential. For nearly a week, the fate of world commerce rested on a sandy bank in Egypt, as experts and engineers scrambled for solutions. And the world waited, holding its breath, wondering how on earth they'd get that ship out, and what it would mean for the future of global trade. The Ever Given wasn't just any ship, it was an ultra-large container vessel, one of the largest moving objects ever built by humans. Stretching across the water like a floating skyscraper, it was a true marvel of modern engineering. At nearly 400 meters long, it was almost as long as the Empire State Building is tall, dwarfing most other ships, and even some of the world's most iconic landmarks. It could carry over 17,000 containers at once, each one packed with everything from electronics and clothing to cars and industrial machinery. That's $1 billion worth of goods making its journey from Asia to Europe, connecting economies and supply chains across continents. These ships keep getting bigger for efficiency, but the world's canals and ports don't always keep up with their size. The infrastructure often lags behind the ambitions of global trade. Navigating such a giant through the Suez Canal is like threading a needle in a windstorm. Precision and timing are everything, and the margin for error is razor thin. On board, a crew of 25, mostly Indian mariners, managed the ship's complex systems, working around the clock to keep everything running smoothly. The captain, Krishnan Kantavel, was in charge of the vessel, but in the canal, 2 Egyptian pilots came aboard to guide the way, bringing their local knowledge and experience. The captain gives the orders, but the pilots have local expertise, a delicate balance of authority and trust, where every decision can have massive consequences. The Ever Given's sheer size made it incredibly hard to control, especially in tight spaces, where even a small mistake could spell disaster. Once moving, it's like a floating freight train. Hard to stop, harder to turn, and with momentum that can't be easily tamed. On March 23, 2021, all that size and power became a liability. The world watched as the Ever Given became headline news overnight. The ship was in a narrow, man-made ditch, not the open ocean. The Suez Canal, a vital artery of global trade, suddenly became a bottleneck. The forces at play, wind, current, and sheer inertia, were about to collide in a perfect storm of bad luck and physics. The Ever Given, a marvel of engineering and a symbol of global commerce, was about to become a global problem, halting billions in trade. In the Suez Canal, even a titan can get trapped, reminding us that nature and circumstance can humble even the mightiest machines. And this time, it did, bringing the world's shipping lanes to a sudden, grinding halt. The day the Ever Given entered the canal, a fierce sandstorm battered the region. Winds over 40 miles per hour slammed into the ship, turning its stacked containers into a giant sail. The official story blamed the weather, but the truth was more complex. To fight the wind, the crew increased speed, hoping for better control. but physics had other plans. As the ship sped up, water pressure dropped along the hull, sucking the bow toward the bank, a phenomenon called the bank effect. The faster they went, the worse it got. The ship began to yaw, swinging side to side as the crew struggled to regain control. Wind, speed, and hydrodynamics combined into a perfect storm. The Ever Given was no longer under command. It was at the mercy of nature. Disaster was inevitable. The ship's black box didn't just record data, it captured chaos on the bridge. The two Suez Canal pilots argued in Arabic, disagreeing on how to handle the crisis. The captain, unable to follow the argument, tried to intervene, but confusion reigned. Orders came rapid fire, hard to port, then hard to starboard. The helmsman struggled to keep up, but the ship was already caught by the bank effect. The bow slammed into the eastern bank at high speed, embedding deep in the sand. The stern swung around, wedging the ship across the canal. In seconds, the world's busiest waterway was blocked by a 400-meter steel wall. Human error, miscommunication, and physics had combined to create a catastrophe. The Ever Given wasn't just stuck. It was wedged in tight. The canal was closed. As the dust settled, the world saw the problem. A colossal ship, helplessly jammed across the canal, but the viral image was a tiny excavator, dwarfed by the ship, digging at the bow. That photo became a meme, a symbol of facing impossible odds with limited tools. The excavator's operator worked around the clock, becoming an unlikely hero, but the task was enormous. The bow was buried meters deep in sand and mud. The Suez Canal Authority brought in tugboats and dredgers, but the ship barely budged. Each failed attempt raised global anxiety as the traffic jam grew. The world watched, united by a shared sense of helplessness and humor. But for those on the ground, the pressure was real, and mounting. The clock was ticking and the stakes were global. The Ever Given was now a symbol of a world brought to a standstill. The race to free it was on. With the ship stuck fast, the owners called in Smith Salvage, experts in maritime rescues. Their first suggestion, offload containers, a process that could take months. Instead, they raced to dredge and tow, hoping for a break. Their secret weapon? The moon. A supermoon was coming, bringing a rare spring tide, the highest water levels of the month. The plan, use the extra buoyancy to help free the ship. Powerful tugboats arrived, joining the effort. Dredgers worked non-stop, clearing mud from the bow and stern. On the night of the Supermoon, the tugs pulled with everything they had. The stern finally broke free, but the bow was still stuck. The team pumped ballast water to shift the ship's weight, using the tide and leverage for one last push. At last, the Ever Given floated free. Ship horns blared in celebration. After 6 days, the canal was open. The world exhaled. The Ever Given's release was a global relief, but the crisis wasn't over. Over 400 ships waited in line, carrying everything from oil to livestock. Clearing the backlog took nearly a week, but the ripple effects lasted months. Delays hit factories, stores, and even garden gnome deliveries. The just-in-time supply chain model was exposed as risky and fragile. Ports in Europe were overwhelmed by the sudden surge of arrivals. Bottlenecks and shortages rippled worldwide. For the Ever Given's crew, the ordeal continued. They were stuck in Egypt as legal battles began. The ship and its sailors were caught in limbo, unable to go home. The incident revealed the human cost behind the headlines. The world saw how a single event could disrupt the entire global economy. The Ever Given saga was far from over. The lessons were just beginning. Once the Ever Given was free, the question was, who pays? The blockage held up nearly $10 billion in trade each day. The Suez Canal Authority lost millions in fees and demanded $916 million from the ship's owners. The ship was impounded, sparking a complex legal battle involving owners, operators, insurers, and the Egyptian government. The owners declared general average, meaning everyone with cargo on board had to share the costs. Negotiations dragged on for months with the ship and crew stuck in the Great Bitter Lake. Eventually, the SCA lowered its demand, and a confidential settlement was reached. After more than 100 days, the Ever Given was finally released. The saga revealed the massive financial stakes and risks of global shipping. A few minutes of chaos led to months of legal wrangling and a bill with a lot of zeros. The world learned just how expensive a traffic jam can be. What did we learn from the Ever Given? When a single ship brought global trade to a standstill, the world watched in disbelief. The event was more than just a traffic jam, it was a wake-up call. The incident exposed the vulnerability of global supply chains and the risks of ever larger ships. Suddenly, the world realized how much we depend on these floating giants to keep shelves stocked and economies moving. Efficiency has a price. A single failure can have massive consequences. The ripple effects were felt everywhere, from factories halting production to consumers facing shortages. Companies and governments are rethinking strategies, considering more inventory and alternative routes. Some are even exploring new technologies and regional supply chains to reduce future risks. The trend of building bigger ships is under scrutiny. Have we reached peak ship? The balance between size, efficiency and safety is being questioned like never before. The crisis spurred investment in better navigation tech and pilot training. Ports and shipping companies are now prioritizing advanced systems to prevent future mishaps. It also highlighted the immense pressure on crews to stay on schedule, sometimes at great risk. The human element, often overlooked, became impossible to ignore. The chaos on the bridge showed the need for clear communication and unified command. Training and teamwork are now seen as critical to safe navigation. The crew's ordeal reminded us of the human side of global trade. Behind every shipment are people facing long hours, isolation, and enormous responsibility. For a week, the invisible world of shipping became visible to all. Suddenly, everyone was talking about maritime logistics and the ships that connect our world. The Ever Given saga was a wake-up call for the modern world. It forced us to confront the fragility of systems we take for granted every day. It showed how delicate our systems really are. A single event can trigger a domino effect, impacting millions across the globe. And it proved that even the biggest, most sophisticated machines can be stopped by a gust of wind and a bit of bad luck. In the end, nature still has the final say.